name is Liza Ziegler, and I'm a design supervisor in road design at the Helena office for the Glendive district. I've been there for 26 years, all in road design, and 23 years was with Bentley products. So I'm still a little sloppy in AutoCAD and Autodesk products, but we're getting there. And so a few months back, Caitlin Murphy gave a question and answer presentation and demo kind of on just kind of the general workflow of corridors and lightly touched on some of the subassemblies and assemblies. And so I was approached because we have a subassembly team that's been meeting once a week for at least a year and a half now probably, and have been working on assemblies to fine tune them for MDT and for our workflows. And so I was approached on maybe doing a demo on some of the work we've been doing to improve some of the functions, make it work better in our workflow. We've taken some input from like construction and some of their processes and tried to incorporate some of those things into the assemblies to make, digital delivery a little smoother. And so thought that'd be a good idea. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to kind of show you around what we've been working on. We've been doing a lot of documentation that goes along with the subassemblies. When we were introduced Autodesk products, somewhere along the way before me, some subassemblies and assemblies were built to mimic what we had in Bentley. And so some of those we were able to salvage. Some of those we had to redo quite a bit to kind of incorporate some of the workflows we were trying to happen. And so I'll kind of show you some of those things. And then I also will show you a few tips and tricks on the different code set styles and how they work. I'll show you a few demonstrations on like fine tuning your corridor with some of the options we have set up in our assemblies. What else do I have? I'll show you a couple of examples of ones that we're working on, some subassemblies we're working on that should be coming pretty soon. And hopefully that'll at least give you a little bit of information and make your jobs a little easier. So it definitely will be more road design focused. So hopefully if you at least aren't in road design and you utilize subassemblies or assemblies, this will at least give you a little bit of information. I think it will probably be easier if I just kind of did the demonstration and then maybe opened up for questions towards the end. I think the chat is open, so if you want to drop some chats in there. Yes. So actually, Beth, if you're gonna stick around, I might have you kind of watch the chat just to see what comes up. But there is a question again. We are recording it, and yes, there will be accessibility to it. And once we get it wrapped up and set out somewhere, we'll be sure everybody knows where that's at. I'll let the CAD folks take care of that and put it maybe with their other training things. So with that, let me share my screen and make sure that everything is working. Okay, everyone see my screen okay? Thumbs up or two or something would be good. Great. So to get started, this is like a typical corridor file that road design will build in their workflow process. So we'll just stay in this file for today. And of course, I have a corridor pre-built and I've laid some of the assemblies. But to start off, I'm going to show you where our tool palettes are located. So if you come up to MDT Design tab at the top here, you'll see where there's a MDT assembly and subassemblies, and then the Civil 3D. So the Civil 3D subassemblies comes with the software, and we can utilize those. We do have to sometimes make edits, and I will show you a small example of pulling in some of those a little later in the process. But for now, we're going to focus on the MDT ones. And when you click this, your whole new tool palette shows up on the side here. And these ones here are all MDT built, or customized, I should say, for our use. And then this is the subassemblies tab. And then we have an assemblies tab where we've utilized those subassemblies and put together assemblies for road designers to use to build their corridors. And I've dropped them in here. So I'll kind of show you through each one of those here in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to go to this top tab here. There's a guide, and we as a subassemblies team have been working on the documentation and piecing it together and including it here. And unfortunately, this only gets updated when we request the state kit updates it. So sometimes they're a little behind, just like everything. Of course, we've worked ahead on a bunch of stuff, but we have to wait, for the whole process to get it out to everyone. So some of the things you'll see today will be a little bit older, but know that the new stuff is coming. I think the last I checked, there was to be a state kit update end of May, early June was kind of their hope. I haven't checked here in the last couple of weeks, but that was kind of the hope. So might watch for that. So if we click on this here, it will open a link to this document. And if you see, we have a section in here where we break down all the MDT subassemblies. There's a few legacy ones, and those are the ones that I talked about. We didn't move them forward because we've replaced them with one, or we've had to adjust them so much to make them work for our workflows. But we'll keep those because they will, they are legacy, so that they'll always be out there and available. And then we also have a section on the assemblies where we're going to break down each assembly. And right now, this is a little bit out of date. It has been updated, but it will not show up until the next release. And when I pull open assembly, I'll kind of show you. And then there's a quick demonstration or a quick example here on how those were put together. So if you need to, maybe yours blows up or you want to put your own together, this is an example of how those were built. So I'll quickly show you at least one of these. And so these are how these are set up. We have the MDT lane, and if you walk through these, it gives you some information on how they can be used. Usually has a diagram. Talks you through a little bit of those information. Important stuff are all the input parameters, and they're all listed. Brief description and the default values. And these come in really handy. I know it's going to look like a lot, but you'll see. You'll appreciate the info. And then, let's see. Of course, the lane has lots of stuff. It also shows you target parameters. So these are parameters we've set up within the subassembly that you can target. And those are all listed out with short explanations. And then some subassemblies have output parameters, and those will be like values that were, so this is the lane. So we're going to actually output the width so that we can use that in other subassemblies. So when you set up your original roadway with a 12-foot lane, you can then use this output throughout your other assemblies, and you won't have to update all of them. You'll be able to pull that information. Each one has a little behavior, talks about the layout, and then there's a coding diagram here, and we'll kind of show you how that pans in. If you ever need to go into like the composer, this just kind of shows you what points are where. And then also we use the points up above in the input parameters here for labels and stuff. So you might find those helpful sometimes, but I wouldn't get too overwhelmed on those unless you really like to get into the nitty-gritty of the composer. And so that's how each subassembly is set up. And then the assembly sections, not that one, let's see, let me show you that. Assembly. So the assembly sections will then come through and show you each one of these. And it breaks down and it shows you which subassemblies are on the left side and which subassemblies are used on the right side. And then it'll go through and it gives you a screenshot of how they're set up and what they're referencing. And you'll see more how that pulls together, but this will be helpful as you're making adjustments to your assemblies and stuff. But you'll see each one has a new section, and this will be updated. Right now the old one still shows out there, but this will be coming, and it's all been cleaned up to match what we've got. So watch for that. Let's see. Before I move ahead, I just wanted to let you all know that we do have a visitor. Eric did show up. Eric Gates from EnvisionCAD is here, and he has been diligently working with us for the last few years, every week, helping us build these, but also mentoring a group of us and teaching us, tons of information. And his time has been very valuable, and we really appreciate it. I'm glad he's here today because I'm by no means highly professional in this area, but I am finding my way around. So continue on. Hi, Eric. I think I saw you on there.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay. All right. So here's what I want to show you. I'm sure most of you have probably placed assemblies. Some of that, I'll just do a quick show so you know how to do it. But here's our assemblies palette. You have a roadway, you come in here, you pick what you want, and you just drag and drop onto your screen, and it places it for you, right? Oops, but before I do that, I'm just gonna use the ones I have set up because I know that they've been fine-tuned. So hopefully everyone can see that. So I'll just kind of give you a brief glimpse of it. So here's your 2-lane. You've got 2 lanes, shoulders, etc. 4-lane. And we have the divided. We have the urban with sidewalk, and we're currently working on a new curb and gutter, and I'll show you a brief demo of that at the end, and that should come out on the next state kit release, and I'm sure you'll like that. So, and then I didn't place 2 of them. One of them is a ramp, which is still, your basic roadway layout with just, I think, 1 lane or something like that, and then there's the option to just widen. So Let's see here. So we're going to kind of just stick on this 2-lane one. It's simple. It's clean. Um, Let me give you a quick tips and tricks on the um, code set styles. Those are a little confusing to people. So let me open this. When you come in here to this code set style, of course, there's a boatload in here, right? And if you kind of look through them, you'll see that most of them are set up for design or plan. So as you're in the design phase, probably like working in the corridor here, you're probably going to pick, the design options. And then of course, when you set up your plan views and cross-section, you're going to probably pick more the plan options. So generally, we'll come in and just pick this MDT section and you'll see we're in the design. So it's going to round to your numbers to like 3 decimal places and things like that. But then when you want to do your plan, you'll set it to plan and it'll do the appropriate rounding. So some of those things help you in this. And then if you scroll down, you'll see there's a section that have the 2022 label, and that was from the prior version. Remember, we recently went to Autodesk 2024. And when we went to that, we did some big jumps on our subassemblies with labeling and things like that. So we had to keep these 2022 code set styles. So if you have a project that you placed assemblies, subassemblies with the 2022 ones, you'll want to use these so that your labels come out right and your views come out right. But from now on, you can just come in and use the ones without the 2022. So that's just a quick, and the code set styles are managed by the state kit team. So if you come in here and you see, oh, something's not displaying right, you do need to go through them with the request for them to update it. And then of course it'll come out with the release. Okay, so let's open. Actually, I'll show you. When you're in here, you can hover over these. Let me make this a little bit bigger because I'm sure your guys' screen is smaller. But as you hover over these, you'll see that they'll drop down and it'll give you the assembly name and the current code set style. But also when you run over, it'll give you the name of each individual subassembly that's been placed. So that sometimes is helpful and it gives you the version, things like that. So then when you open up in here, the overall, this is a big piece of the pie here. I might keep this over here. So I'm in the 2-lane rural. And if you see, these have been pre-set up on the state kit. So they've all been built and laid out for you and labeled. So you've got your right side and your left side. And you can see we have a couple lanes, but one is acting like a lane and one is acting like a shoulder. And then we have the shoulder piece, which is your little triangle piece. And then we have the end condition. And as we go through these, you'll see certain references have been made here. So the first one is your parameter reference. And this is just a place where you can set a width, a depth, a number, and then you can reference it through the remaining subassemblies attached, right? So you have one on the right side and you have one on the left side. So if you had a right side that had, you know, a 4-foot shoulder, but your left side had an 8-foot shoulder, here's where you could set that up and set it up to follow through. So like for instance here, when you come into the lane, it's been pre-set up. I was gonna pull that over, but it doesn't really want me to. There we go. And no, these don't scale. I messed that up. But anyway, I think if you hover over them, they pop out too. Because this doesn't scale real nice. So you'll see in here when you have this parameter box checked and it says reference parameter references and pave 1. So back here on parameter references, pave 1, it's going to reference this 0.3. So if you come in here and change it to 0.5, you have to apply it. When you go back into the lane, you'll see here pave 1 depth has now been updated. And then if you find where you don't want to reference the whole way through, you simply just check it off and it will adjust just this one. So then and then when you go and look here, you'll see how it isn't what it's not following anymore. So I'm sure a lot of you have worked with this, but when we've built these, we've preset these up so that to make your guys' lives a little bit easier. So the two lanes are similar. So let me show you. So say you wanted to, I have to cancel this and open this back up just to kind of show you this parameter box. Oops, let me make that a little smaller. We don't need this. But you'll kind of see here, how come I can't get that to go? Oh, there we go. Maybe I didn't do this right, but you can kind of see here and here. So these are all your parameters, and these are what we've laid out in the documentation so that you have, you know, an idea of what everything was preset at, what their, you know, definition is, description is. And then as you go down, you'll see there's this list of P1s, L1s. P's are your points, L's are your links. And then they're all strings. And so these are going to be labels. And so I'll kind of show you how those work here in a demo a little later. But this was a big change with 2024 is we could change these labels as a user, where before you didn't have that flexibility. And so this comes into play when, I guess, mainly when building like surfaces, feature lines, things like that. And then when that transfers over to construction. This has been a really big piece of that. And it also, some of these labels here are what labels on your screen in your drawings. So in each one of these, you'll find, you know, all the shapes and labels or links and points that you have the option to change as needed. They have been set up so that they're kind of consistent throughout and they match from one to the next to make everyone's lives a little bit easier. Sometimes things come up, of course, because every design is unique where you may need that flexibility to make those adjustments. And you'll also see all those will be included in the parameter references here. Oops, I went too far. I'll even jump to a different one. Shoulder, here it is. So those are all also listed all through in the documentation. And I'll just kind of drop down through these so that you can kind of just see. These will all be in the documentation. Now the shoulder is set up a little bit different. It still references paved depths, things like that. And then of course we have the daylight with subbase. And this one is a little more complex. Has some other options as far as choices in here, which you'll see in the documentation too. So some of them have these drop downs where you can pick the daylight with the subbase, just the daylight, or just the subbase, and say you change and hit apply. You'll see it dropped the subbase here, but you still have the whole daylight option or your end condition option. And then, oops, do this again. And of course, if you drop down and want your subbase only, you'll see this, it'll drop the end condition so that you have the option to place your own end condition if you have a unique situation. Maybe you need to add a sidewalk or I don't know, but it gives you those options. So that's a pretty powerful little guy here. And then of course also it has a bunch of parameter references set up here. So it should follow through. This is an awful box, I'm sorry. But it also has your fill and cut tables here. So here's where you would go in and set, depending on the type of roadway you have. And then again, it has all these options of where you can adjust your labels to make your surfaces, all that good stuff in here too. Oh, let me turn that back on because I think I use this one. I think for now I'll leave this on. And I'll just show you, let's grab like the divided one, just so that you can I'll show you a quick difference here. And you can just see how these are laid out differently. Where this one, it starts with this Lincoln slope to represent your median, and of course we've set up the outside lane, inside lane for both the left and right side. And as you go down through here, a lot of the parameter references have been set up. And these are all documented. So you can kind of find your way around, make adjustments if you need to. And of course, the urban one, which this one will probably change here pretty soon because we do have this new curb and gutter. But you can see it has a trapezoidal shape for a boulevard. It has a sidewalk. And then it has some other features here. You could let's see if I look through it here. But you can see it's been set up to have a berm, sidewalk, maybe a berm after, and then a end condition. But while I'm here, I'll show you the new curb and gutter, just because you guys might think it's kind of, whoops, I don't want to do that. I'm just gonna place the new one. So I'm gonna bring the new one down. We were just working on it, so hopefully we left in a good spot. Here, I'll open this up so you guys can see. Whoops. Escape, undo. And I'll just open this curb and gutter. The boxes are so, this is just the subassembly itself. So you can just kind of see. Of course, we have the options to pick the side. We do have the option to change the attachment point from front to gutter to the back. So that might come in. It's a nice feature. And then I think the best option here that, oops, let me apply that so it goes back, is we have this drop down of all of our varying curbs. So you can actually come down here and say you have a pin down curb for median and apply it, and you're going to get the different types. And then there's also some for the, they've been set up for like an ADA ramp. So you can see that they're, different. They've got options to adjust your base and sub-base materials. There's overrides for pretty much everything: gutter slope, base slope, curb height, curb width. And then of course there on the standard curb and gutter, there is a berm option. Figuring with the ADA stuff, you're probably going to have something else coming off of it, sidewalk, something like that. So this is hopefully coming out in the next one. And then of course we'll update our urban assembly with it so that it comes in with the new stuff. And of course the new documentation and everything will also be out there. And then there's one other new one I wanted to show you. So we've started on the idea of building some sub-assemblies for kind of design purposes. So maybe it's like an assembly you might drop on, a sub-assembly you might drop on to just run through your corridor and look at things, like where things are, cuts are hitting, fills are hitting. And Cheston, who's also on our assembly team, had built these tables and was showing us how he used them, and we thought they were, a great idea, especially for us designers when we're trying to go through and fine tune our grading, right? So I thought I'd at least kind of show you those. Those pretty neat. And they should come out too in the next release. So I'll show you the cut table. And you'll come in here and you'll drop it on here. And you can see it then lays out your grid so that you can see where you're different, and then of course they'll be labeled so you can see them. I don't know, maybe I do actually. Not in there. Might have set up a property. Did I? I did. So that maybe it'll show up better when I open the screen here. So let me try this. Um, Tulane. Probably better update it here. And you'll see now these tables fall on here. So then as you're scrolling through here, get to one that's, you can see here's where it's hitting the 2-to-1, but if I really wanted to 3-to-1, I'd come out here. And you can use this. I think what he did, I haven't tried it yet because we just built these, but I think, so say you wanted to use this, and I think if you come down here, you can mark it on your screen, and then you can, adjust your corridor as you need. So I thought that was a great tool. And those are coming, and there's one for fill also, and one for cut. And when you open them, of course, you have the options to adjust the table to whatever type of roadway you have. So that's kind of been a new and upcoming thing, is we're thinking maybe we'll have another tab or something like that where we'll introduce some design tools set up as subassemblies. Let's see. So I was going to move on to kind of working on the corridors and showing you guys some examples on maybe some options for fine tuning and doing some, grading things. Is there any questions at this point before I go on to the next section? I don't see anything in the chat. I'll just give you a quick minute if there's a couple questions. Otherwise, I'll start the corridor stuff. Okay, so so there's going to be many ways that you guys can approach this, and you may have easier ways that work for you. I just pick some ways that maybe I would approach some of these situations, just to give you some tools, some ideas, and kind of show you how some of these assemblies work. So the first one I'm going to show you is a new tool that showed up with 2024, and it's called, I think, Transition Tool, Edit Transitions. So up here, there's this Edit Corridor Transition. And when I asked about, because you can do most of the things that you can do in this Edit Transition tool, you can also set up your assemblies to do with targeting, with things like that. So I asked what's the best way to use this tool? And the information that I got is it's best to set up with targeting and your assemblies, and then maybe use this corridor tool for fine tuning at the end, or maybe kind of doing some design work in the beginning. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think, if I remember right, that sometimes these can be lost and then you have to end up recreating them. And so they have a little more of a danger factor to them. So if you kind of maybe save them till the end or just use them as tools. Oh, I see a comment here. Eric, label codes. Which label codes are you asking, Eric? I'm sorry. Did you want me to show him something?
No, go ahead and answer Brittany's.
Oh, okay. Brittany, let's see. Okay, we'll look at that. Let me see if I can actually, before I use this tool, let's just see if it does it for me here. So she says the fill condition doesn't show up in her corridor when she uses the construction limits. So, oh, it's crashing on me here. So you're saying when you go in here, or no, you want this code set style? Which one is she setting it to?
Uh, so when I reference my corridor into like a blank file as a data
Oh,
shortcut or something, and then I change my code set for that to be like the construction limit only,
okay,
I'm only seeing the dashed green for cut and not the solid green for fill.
okay. Well, I will make note of that and we will look at that. If we have time, I'll do it at the end. If not, we will reach out to you. We will see if we get the same. If we don't get the same, I'll reach out to you or we'll do it at the end just because it's a little bit different. It's more in the code set style, I'm guessing, than the assembly. Fair enough. And then Eric, which label codes were you wanting me to show them?
Oh, I was just explaining that all those labels and code set styles you were showing are defined in the code set styles. So they're really matching what.
Oh, yes. So they're matching in this big list of code set styles we have here, right? Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah, just open the code set style, and that's depending on the code set style you want to use. Those are the codes that you're going to put in the label parameter locations.
Oh, right. So if you open, like you were going to edit one of these. In here.
Yeah, so that's the name, and if you wanted to do a label, those are the labels: label grade design.
Yep.
So you can go into a code set style and look at what label you want to put, and then just add that into the P1 or P or L1 parameters.
Oh, yep. So you can
I'm
use
just tying that
these.
together, trying to tie that
Yep.
together.
Absolutely. Yep. So that's helpful. That's kind of another full circle. Thanks. I might not have thought of that. Okay. So let's go back to turn off the slope label. So like in the code set style or on the screen, or we can show you in the assembly. Chris, I'll just show you in the assembly really quick.
I was just thinking so that it doesn't label on the actual cross sections.
On the cross sections themselves or in here. So like surfacing in slope is in this one, I think. thing is so not
L10.
user friendly. L10.
Yeah.
There it is. So right now we have this style in here called label slope. So if you don't want that on, I mean, you can simply just delete it and apply it and it turns it off. But then if you want it in your code set style, you have to do similar. You have to go in and remove it. Actually, if I did let me do this. If I did a rebuild of this, it should turn it off up in here too. Oops. So you'll see it turned it off in there too. So that's one way. So back to the transition tool. The one I have set up is I'm just going to show like tapering the shoulder at like your beginning of your project. Which maybe you would do with a target or something like that, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll just do that. So in here, you can hit add, and then you actually go on your screen and you pick the subassembly you want to alter. So I want to do the shoulder, so I roll over until I find the shoulder. I select it, and then these are all the options that you can transition. So I'm actually going to do the lane width, because this is the shoulder, but it's just a miniature lane. And then as it starts to come up, it'll ask you, where do you want to start it? You can either type it in or you can come to and pick it. And then I jumped one. So it put in a start value of 4. And then you can put in the end station. And let's go to 8. And then it'll do a linear. And enter, and then apply. And you'll see it adjusted on the corridor. You can see it on the corridor. And then when you go up to the section editor, let's see, I'm going the other direction. So you can see it started at 16, which is your 4-foot shoulder, and then it'll continue to increase. And then one of the tricks we found with this is you do have to make sure that you go into your assembly and we were doing the shoulder, and you need to make sure that your lane width parameter reference is off. If this is on, it won't, the transition tool won't work. So that's kind of just a quick show on the transition tool. It's pretty powerful. I guess this wasn't available in the previous. And then of course, if you want to remove it, you remove it, but then you have to also remember to apply.
Along with the parameter reference, the targets as well. You'd have to remove targets as well.
Okay. So if you had any previous targets, okay, that makes sense. Targets in that area. Hang on one sec, I just need a quick drink. I got a little frog in my throat. All right, sorry about that. Okay. So the next little piece I was going to show you is actually utilizing profile control. Some of you, I'm sure, have used them. It's kind of a new method compared to like some of our Bentley processes. So I thought maybe I would show a quick how-to on that or how they work. I'm going to close out of this for a quick second because I'm going to show you the actual profile view. So say you want to vary your ditch width. You know, maybe you want to start it at 10 and at the beginning and end and grade it down to 0 in a certain area. And maybe you're going to go in and out throughout your whole project. So it might be easier to set up like a control profile where you just put in the different widths that you want. And then you target that profile in your corridor, and your ditch will go in and out with your control profile. So I thought I would show, I think it was Bodhi and Avi built some documentation on how to build these control profiles, the workflow for them. And it is in our documentation, and it is on the list to be released. So you can watch for that. Let me show you, just so that it's on the recording for you guys. I'll just do it really quick since the documentation isn't quite circulated yet. So let me see. And there's probably several ways to do this, guys. This was just a nice way that Avi and Bodhi kind of picked. So what they do is you take your mainline profile view. And what you want to do is you'll want to go into your profile view properties. And make sure that this user specified height is on. Okay. And then you'll simply just do like a copy. And then you can come in here. Oops. I got something else. There we go. And then you can update it, you know, and call this your control ditch profile. And then of course your station range is fine, but here's the kind of the trick here. is you'll want to adjust these heights to ditch widths. So I guess in his an example, they just went from like -20 to 20. And then your grid will adjust accordingly. So now that sets it up so you're connected to your profile or to your alignment and etc. So I've built one already down here, so let's just kind of go look at that. So that was just like so I could get it on record for you guys. So if you wanted to build your own. But you just build the profile same way you would any other. But as you can see, it's built from from station 10 to 12, we're going to have a 10-foot ditch. And then 10 to 13, we're going to skip. We're going to go to 0. And then we're going to go back to 10. So if you kind of look, it's hard to, I tried to pick a better color, but you can kind of see the red line here. It jumps, and then here we're at 10, and then we're going to go to 0, and then we're going to go back to 10 for the rest of the project. So if you had other areas, you could adjust and put in different widths. So what you'll do then is in your corridor, I guess I'll just leave it in here. Let me close that. In your corridor here, and all your targets. Close these so you can kind of see when you open these targets, you have the options of your surface target, which is usually your existing ground, or you have all of these target parameters. And so in this case, the ditch is going to be in our, I think I'm going to do that. I think I did it on the right side. Let me make sure. Yeah, the right side. So I'll come down to the right side, and we know it's in not parameters. And daylight with some base. And you'll come down here and you'll see there's a width control profile. And so you can either select it, because here's the right ditch width. That's this red profile I built. Or you can pick it on your screen. Maybe. Oh, it's going to make me do it over here. It highlighted it here. Okay. And then you'll see it populates up here. And you can say okay and rebuild. And you're going to get a bunch of errors. Don't panic. That's just my corridor. Okay. So now when you go in here, let's see, I did from about 12 to 13. And you can see, I wasn't getting a catch. It's too far out. So I started moving the ditch in so it would catch. Let's see here. Oops, I went too far. Well, I thought I had a 0 ditch, but maybe I didn't. Let me go back and look. So I had a 10-foot ditch to 12. Then it's supposed to go to 0. Let me try her again. Maybe I picked the wrong side. Well, I did.
You're
Did you want
setting
the
the
ditch
target on the force slope, not the ditch.
on the ditch width, right?
Oh,
You
did
want
I
the
have
ditch
one in
width,
there?
not the. Yeah, you have the force slope instead of the ditch width.
Oh, okay. Then that would be it. That would be the ticket. Thanks. On the right, floor slope width. Thank you very much. Ditch width control profile. There it went. Thanks for that. Picked the wrong one. Doesn't work. And then I think at 1350, it jumps back out to where it was. So that's kind of a quick and dirty on the control profiles. It gives you some tools to work with.
I believe they're adding a new dialogue option for the control profile
Oh,
now.
okay.
If you go to the MDT design.
Okay.
And then under profiles in the MDT modeling panel, the profiles pull down
Oh, no.
to
Modeling?
the left. To the left, profile where it says profiles.
Oh, gotcha.
And then pull down control profile editor. Click on that.
Oh, okay.
And now, yeah, so I don't know if they've done documentation or not. Somebody else will need to chime in on that, but
Okay.
this allows you to build them and build a whole bunch of them together without having to build them graphically.
Okay.
And then it does, and then it also gives you an option. I think if you go over in the edit tab on the top, it then gives you an option if you wanted to there's nothing there, but you can create the profile. So then you don't have to do those steps that you just showed. But
Sure.
again, sometimes it's easier just to graphically if you do it. But I know that this exists now. I don't know if they've got documentation on it yet. It's if you go to create, you hit the create tab. I don't want to take too much time. Just put a ZCP, just put a name there, like an individual, call it ditch width or something. Put it 1 or something. Yeah. And then in the value, put like 15 or something. And then hit create button down below. Hit OK. So profile's created without graphically, and now go to the edit button, edit tab. And now you have a tabular edit, and now you can go and pick stations and add them graphically. So in plan view, you can go into like that, see where it says edit and that little on the left-hand side, the left-hand side there where it says edit down at by station. Yep, just click on that arrow button right next to the station. Right there. And then pick something in plan view, pick a point in plan view. Yep, pick something. And then it gives you the station and then add a value. Say you want that station to be 10. And then hit the add button. And now you've got a tabular editor without having the profile. And if you want to create the profile, you can just hit that create button and it'll create a profile for you.
Here.
So
okay.
just kind of a tabular dialogue driven tool to build the profiles.
That's
You can hit
nice.
create and it'll create it, then it'll prompt you to put that profile somewhere. But
Okay.
ultimately, if you just close this, you now have created a target. So
Okay.
hit close. And now if you go into targets for Corridor, you'll see that profile has been created. So it's just another,
Very cool.
yeah.
Okay. Yep, I was not aware of that, so that's really nice.
I think it's new, and I don't think I'm not aware of the documentation, but that's something. But
Okay. Well, that'll be helpful because it'll be on this recording for these guys.
I think it's
out.
in the what's new from the last state kit update. I think.
Okay. Great. That was good information. So let's see. So I did the transition tool. I did a control profile. I was going to show you guys the forced catch because that's a pretty powerful one that I think you guys will probably use quite a bit. And it's similar target we set up in the subassemblies. So say you want your fill slope or your cut slope to hit a certain target. In this case, I just drew a polyline. Maybe it's an existing ditch bottom, etc. But it's very similar. Going into your targets again. Let's see, this one's going to be on the right side. And I think I'm going to do forced catch. So if you'll see here, there's a forced catch option. Once again, you can pick it. It highlights it here. Then you can see limits came out. And then let me go look at it at about 21. You can see, let me turn it off. Guess I can just hit edit targets, can I? You can see where before it wasn't catching at all. And so you can just use targets like that. Yeah. What other little thing did I have? Oh, so I thought maybe I would show you a couple examples of like editing the assembly, or maybe like editing the end conditions. I think there was a question that popped up. Let me look if you can. Yes. Thank you for that. Cody left a note if people want to take a peek. Very nice. So this is just your 2-lane rural that I placed out here. And you can see I dropped in the slope to surface link, which is right here. So I think what I did is got rid of the one end condition and placed that on there. So when you open this, actually I might have. Let me make this smaller so we can kind of see. So on the left side, you can see I still have the daylight with subbase. I put it to subbase only, but I zeroed out the subbase depth in this case because my situation, my corridor doesn't work with the subbase just because of the configurations. So in my case, I set it to 0, the subbase depth here. And then I added this slope to surface link. And you can see it's just going to put a cutter fill. You can say which you want. But the big thing with these MDT ones is we've tried to, keep the naming in there for you. So these names have been updated to match kind of the MDT naming codes we've come up with. So this is just an option where you could adjust your assembly and maybe you just, section out a region or something like that. But in this case, I was just going to apply it to the whole thing so that you guys can just see kind of what it does. So right here, I'm just going to pick the other assembly. This was the slope to surface. And I think it keeps my targets. Yep. So let's go. Of course, some of them are going to solve funny. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. There we go. You can see here on the left side, where in this case, it's going to force it to do the fill. And then, of course, as you go into the cut here, does that. So those are just some options. So don't be afraid to adjust your assemblies, certain end conditions. And then I also set up one that has this sloped surface link. Same situation. I just placed it over here instead of the, and I think I put the daylight to subbase only and had to zero out subbase. And it's just because of the geometry, guys. It does work. Okay, and this one is a little bit different. In this one, I'm going to, oops, sorry. There we go. I think I have a little target drawn. Oh, right here, I already have it targeted. So let me turn it off first. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. You can see I have this little target drawn out here. I'm going to go in here. Wrong one. Corridor. And you'll see there's the offset on surface link. And you have the option to do this. Let's see, did I do? Yes, I did the offset. And I'll just pick it. Maybe I picked the wrong one. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, I picked the wrong one again. So offset on to surface. Target. Make sure that, yep. Oh, I did pick the wrong one. I just want offset, not slip offset. And you can see, so like if you were trying to hit the existing ditch bottom there, you could draw your line out there and have it solve to. Just another example of ways you can do this. There's probably a umpteen million ways. I'm just kind of giving you a few tools because what did Cheston say? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I left them generically. So definitely, if you want to label these just to help keep yourself organized, obviously. And so hopefully those were kind of some helpful tools. I'm sure a lot of you've found your way around already. Bob, you have your hand up. How can I help you? Or how can someone help you?
I just wrote a little tag here. So with
Oh.
the stepped offset, is that using for like multiple, for targeting the same surfaces at different locations?
The control profile?
Well, yeah, for your stepped offset for your target. What's the difference between the offset and the stepped offset?
I guess I don't know what you mean by step offset. Do you guys?
If you click on your target, you have a stepped offset, the one that you marked, and it was the
Oh, slope.
incorrect.
It was
Oh, is it
slope.
slope? Oh,
It
I'm sorry.
was, yep, it was slope. Sorry about that. Yep. Yep. You can put in a target for your slope. Yeah, you can change the slopes too. So
Okay.
yeah, that was, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And
Now,
those are all documented in those documents too. So if you come upon one like that and you're not sure, you can always come back to this and it'll help you kind of figure out what they're for.
okay.
Just knowing that documentation is there. I don't know that a lot of people did. And it is getting updated and matching our stuff a little better now these days. Now that we're starting to
Okay.
catch up a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet. So I wanted to just give you a quick show on like building the surface. I think Caitlin touched on it a little bit. But it'll kind of show you how like some of these naming conventions play in. So let's do that really quick. Let's go in our corridor here and into surfaces. And I'm gonna delete this one. We're gonna build a new one. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna come back here. Back. I'm gonna update it back to and then I was going to show you this code set style. So we kind of built this code set style for like when you're working in like the composer and like if you were building these surfaces, this code set style could be helpful. If you drop down in here, like one of the very first ones is this subassembly all codes. And if you pick that and you go in here and look, you can see what these are all named. And this can help you, when you're building your surfaces and etc. So say I go in here and you scroll down. Oh, that's not right. I think I had an extra one. There it is. Okay. You can see these labels here. And so this is where this might help you, when you're trying to build surfaces and things. And you can edit these names and etc. So this is sometimes handy. So when I go to build this surface, it was recommended. I think when we first started doing it, we're doing the links to build the surfaces, but we've kind of found with maybe some of the naming conventions and the way things are coming together with feature lines that we will use the feature lines, the point names to build the surfaces. And I'm pretty sure that Caitlin's documentation did kind of discuss those different options. in her little corridor presentation and her documentation. But this just kind of, we'll show you more of the, oops, I wanted to stay in on that. Trying to make that a little bit bigger for you guys here. Then I'll just rebuild this really quick just so you guys have it on your, on the, nope, I didn't want to do that. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's fine. So if I'm going to build a new surface, but here, instead of the links, it was recommended to maybe go this feature line route. And then as you can see, you can pick these names. So say, you know, I'm going to start with centerline pave 1. And then just pave 1. You know, and you can just kind of go along EOS pave 1. Then I think the runs, I don't have them on the screen, but there's the daylights are, I think I'll add them all just to be safe. Daylight, daylight cut, ditch bottom, fill. And let's just do the floor slope too, just to be sure. Okay. And then I guess if you wanted to, oh, did I do that right on this one? Did I do top links?
I
can
think you got
see,
edge of base. I think you got edge of base in there as well. Which
did I? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess it'll blow up, it'll show me here, won't it?
exactly. Exactly.
So, edge of base. Huh? Get it in there? But anyway, let's see. So if you can see it, it's turned on here. So you can see this blue line is showing my surface. So I'll just show you so you can kind of see what turns on and off. You can see that's regular. And then when you turn on the surface to top, you can see that you've picked the right points, but I might have got a base in there. But that's where I wanted to show you that those names become important and you have a lot of flexibility there. So you had like a point that wasn't named and you needed to, you kind of have the naming code set out there for you and you have that freedom to name it. I didn't see where it picked a weird
No, base edge is correct. Yeah, it's
Oh,
I just
because
use,
I got it. It was one of these. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I fixed
it's the
that.
intersect point. Yep.
So it was okay. Yeah. Excuse me. All right.
Liza, there is a question in the chat.
How does that work with the?
The new curves
Sorry,
for
I had a
yeah, the new
cough. If you
curves
could
for
take that,
creating.
Eric.
Yeah, the new curves for creating don't have an arc. There's no need to have an arc on the surface. The face of curb is we kind of made it conservative enough for 3D tracking, so there's no reason to actually have the arc in there. The arc, yeah. If you want the arc, you can use the old one, but the point codes still cross over the arc and the arc isn't coded.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I had a little froggy in my throat. Not used to having talked this long, I guess.
I was just gonna say that. Now you know. Now you know how it is, huh? Like,
yeah. So I had one more thing I was going to show you guys. Looks like time-wise we're doing pretty good. So we are able to use the Autodesk out of the box subassemblies. And so I built one. I took one of our assemblies and added a couple of the out of the box links just to kind of show you how that works. So let me close out of this because I built like a mini. I built this little mini guy down here. And here's the so I took just your basic MDT 2-lane rural. I dropped it down here and I did some edits to the right side and I used the Autodesk out of the box, a few of them. So we zoom in on this. I used a couple of the conditional ones. So if you go, this is the Autodesk Civil 3D Subassemblies. And they have these conditional ones. So if you drop down and you place a conditional, you have the option to place a cut or a fill. So I place one of each. So if it's in cut, it's going to do this. If it's in fill, it's going to do this. So I place those. And then these are just links. So I think those are under generic and they're just a link, offset, and slope. So you can give it a width and a slope. So that's kind of your floor slope, ditch bottom, and then this one was actually, I think, if I roll over it, it probably tells me. Well, it might not in the out of the box ones. Whoops. Oh, it was because I was, I was in a theme. That's why it wouldn't. There it goes. So this one I used, oh, I changed the name of it. So I must have used probably link to surface. Ba-dum-ba-dum. This one, link slope to surface. So then you can put it. So when you open this, you can see the left side looks the same from our assembly, but the right side, I have the cut condition side and the fill condition side. So here I have a link that's just an offset. And it's offset from center line. And it's going to be at a 6:1. So that's your four slope. So I named it four slope. And then I added a ditch bottom. And again, that's from center line. And I gave it 20:1. And then of course so what I really wanted to show you is here is where I came in and added appropriate labels. So let me lay like a generic one so you can see the difference. Oh, sure. So when I come in and place this, I guess I can open assembly. See, it comes in with generic P2 and a top and a datum. So when I added them, I then took a minute and named them accordingly so that when I build my surface, it matches. And so the topic has come up that maybe maybe we take some of these out of the box ones and adjust them for MDT and put in some of these default codes for you. And we've talked about it, and that may be coming. But for now, you can see where you can adjust those. And then when you go to build your surface, they're all named, nice. And then of course on the fill side, I just put an end condition. So, so let's look. Oh, not too many picked. So now you'll see, let's see, which side am I on? On the right side. Ah, I did this on purpose. So see, it went in to fill, it solved, but see, I don't have one of the labels right. On the ditch. And I believe I want to put this. And you can just do a copy. And a paste. And then it shows the line. So when you're thinking through some of these and you're thinking, oh, that's kind of overwhelming to have to rebuild an assembly and add out of the box pieces. It's not as bad as you would think, I guess. I found. So I just thought that would be helpful for you guys to see just a few of these. And there's a ton of stuff in here and you can use them. But like I said, some of them don't have a lot of options to edit those names. And so it can cause some trouble sometimes, just things to be aware of. But they're also very handy and very useful. So I think that's all on my list here. Should we take a quick peek at that? Construction limit code. Well, maybe first I'll see, is there any thoughts, comments, questions? It's kind of all I had on the demo, just to show you guys a little bit more about what we've pieced together here. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Oh, let's see. All right, let's turn off the survey. And then you're saying I'll change this to construction limits. Is that where we were? I think that's where we were changing it. Let's see. Maybe. Actually, it was in here, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm thinking that is the construction limits code set style. And it's still showing all those lines. That shouldn't be, should it?
Open up the corridor and change it in there.
Yeah.
Do a rebuild.
See, it's on.
It's on construction limits.
Yeah.
I don't see anything
Corridor
wrong with
style in the information tab.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's not where you change it. Yeah.
Go to default.
Oh, okay. And that turned off the.
Right, but I don't see anything wrong with the corridor construction limits. I'm wondering if the code in the subassembly is incorrect. It's supposed to be daylight underscore fill. If it's, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of right now. I mean,
Oh, okay.
so it may be a coding issue within the subassembly.
Okay. So maybe I'll jot that down and we'll go look.
Well,
So
not in yours,
maybe.
but in hers. So if you're not seeing something, it might be the exact same thing of just not having that particular the daylight code correctly for the fill. Open up the code set style MDT corridor construction limits. Just open that one up in the settings because it looks correct to me.
Yeah. So you're thinking that maybe she has one that's.
Maybe just the code's not. Yeah, it's an underscore versus dash or something.
You might be right. I'd have to go look at mine. I built my own assembly based off of the MDT subassemblies and
Okay.
used that one. So I'm wondering if the MDT subassembly may be coded
Yeah.
different than the actual one in the assembly, you know.
That
Open
could
up
be.
that code set style right there. And so if you open up, if you want to know how to code these things, then just go to points there. Oh, expand the points there. And if you scroll down, you'll see the daylight ones, daylight cut and daylight fill. And if you pan over, notice that, ooh, yours has no marker. Oh no, I'm sorry, the feature line style. See how it says has a feature line style there?
Hmm.
Expand, yeah. Both of those have a feature line style. So that's what you should be seeing. But notice the code. So
Right
if
here.
the daylight cut point should see daylight underscore cut. So if anytime you're building something on your own, like she was talking about with those out of the box ones, and just go into the code set style that you're going to be using and verify that those codes, that the code that you have in your subassembly matches this code.
Perfect. Thank you for the information.
Yeah.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah, it's just all about matching.
Yeah. Yeah. And it took me a while to grasp a lot of these, the full circle, so to speak. So Tyler had a question about future classes or documents. Step-by-step process. Future classes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was just approached to do this demo. I don't know if there's classes pending with like EnvisionCAD or any of those. Someone else would have to speak on that.
Yeah, there probably will be an advanced corridor class coming out in the future. And then I guess if anybody has ideas, you can always send them, you know, if there's something that you want specific, let us know and we can see. We can get some more training.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess as far as the documentation, Caitlin is working on that, and I don't know if she's on the meeting or not. I didn't see her name, so.
I'm here.
Oh, are you
on? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll let Caitlin speak to that.
Yeah, I was working on creating a comment, just kind of directing you to the documentation that we already have posted online. I know a lot of you are consultants on here, and I just wanted to announce that I have updated the title and note sheets documentation in Autodesk, which does instruct users to now utilize a title sheet, or sorry, Esri documentation for the title sheet. And by documentation, I actually mean a map. But that is out and posted, and I will be creating an announcement fairly soon. I'm trying to see if I can tie up some more documents here in the next week or two, but otherwise I'll be sending out that announcement relatively soon. And that documentation will be linked, but I'll also be sending a link in the chat just showing where you can find everything that's been published and the revised dates. So I have been going through and updating a few documents here and there, trying to get them updated to 2024. Not everything has been touched yet, but we do have several documents in the pipeline. And then as for videos, I did a couple Q&As internally last year, and I can look and see if we could maybe get them posted on our YouTube or something, because right now they're currently shared on BIM 360 internally, so I can look into seeing if we can get that external. And those videos are all took place in 2022, so they are a little bit outdated, but if that would be of interest, I can definitely look into that. So hopefully that'll help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, guys? Always feel free to reach out whenever questions come up. Most of us are pretty easy to track down.
Hey, thank you for hosting this.
No problem. Hopefully it was helpful and you guys got a little bit of something out of it.
Yeah, I wanted to just say a huge thank you to Liza for the presentation, and then all Eric's help, and also all the sub-assembly and assemblies work that you guys have put into this. This, I think, will be really helpful. So thank you.
You bet.